I want to take you through the ministry structures and everything and all that. You know, we had this magazine last 2 years, or last year? Last year, 2017. And this one was more like talking about the ministry and everything about some of the things about the ministry and all that. Okay. So let me just give you a brief background of the ministry. Before I come to that, I want to start from somewhere, you know. I want to start from the year 2000, or let me start from 95. 1993 was when I really started ministry work, you know, like in terms of leading, teaching Bible studies at church and all that. 1995 onwards, I was still doing that. At that time, the whole family was in a church, you know, and the focus of the church was rural evangelism and planting of churches in rural areas and all that. So I was following my father. My father was leading us, you know, and we went to the church, and he was an elder in charge of Kumasi branch. And later on, we were also appointed as leaders of the Kumasi branch. Later, we had some branches at Tafo and Yenya also, you know, and literally at the point I was handling the Tafo Wednesdays and Fridays. Then Sundays we'll come to Amekum for all that. So fast forward, after school, 2000, I came to CCC. When I came to CCC, we all came to CCC. When we go to CCC, immediately I joined the children's ministry. In fact, I joined the children's ministry in 2001. After they had their children's day and they made an altar call for teachers. So I wanted to join two arms, the worship and then the children's ministry. Because at that time, I was so much into worship. But I realized that they had their preparatory class on Tuesdays, both of them. So I had to choose between the two. And I chose the children's ministry. I just chose it because I love children. And somehow, children also like me. When they see me, they want to come around me and all that. So we went for a seminar, and the man of God who came from US, the white man, he said that a clue to your purpose is what you desire to do. So I said, oh, then I desire to teach children. So let me just go to the children's ministry. And I started teaching the children. I served in the KG department for 1 year. And at that time, I was also the youth president. They appointed me as the youth president of the young adults ministry. When I went to the young adult ministry, I just gave one contribution. I didn't know anything. I didn't know they were planning anything. So I just gave one contribution. Then the pastor in charge asked me to see him. So I came to see him in his office. Then he asked me of my background and then I told him the church that we were in and how we were to evangelism and all that. The following Monday at the youth meeting, he came. Then he said, Mintah, come. They said, from today, this guy is your president. And there were leaders in the meeting of the ministry. He said, from today, this guy is your president. He's close. I've appointed him as the president. He has to lead the ministry. So the leaders got angry, went to see pastor. And pastor said, no, don't do it like that. Don't do it like that. It's not fair. The guy just came. I was not even like more than 6 months in the ministry. The man of God said that I should leave. So, long story short, they changed the thing. And they asked me, what do you want to do? I said, oh, I'm fond of books. So if you have a library, I want to take over the library. They said, okay, then you handle the library. So I was just taking care of the library. People come and borrow books. And I was also getting books to read. Because I like reading. I like books. So Then it got to a point, the president traveled, the vice also traveled, then the secretary was acting. Then within a year, all of them went. Then as he was going, he came to me the next year and said that you are the one who must lead. So from 2001, I started leading the young adults. Then I was in the children's ministry and I was leading the young adults also in the church. Then I was also teaching Bible studies at church. So when I taught KG for 1 year, actually I didn't teach. I was just a helping teacher. So my teacher, my duty was to arrange the place for service, make sure I will go for the television and the deck and set it up for them and make sure that I'm in the class welcoming the children and getting them properly seated for the teacher to come and teach them. When they want to go and wee-wee, I will just take them out to go and wee-wee. Poo-poo, I'll take them to go and poo-poo. And I was just doing that. I just love to do that. I was just doing that. Sometimes I would get home and my waist would be paining because I'll be lifting the children up, lifting this one, lifting that one, carrying the TV and all that. After 1 year, they said I should handle the class. So I handled the class, KG children for 5 years, 5-year-old children. I was just handling them. So I handled them for 1 year. Then one day, my heart just changed. I wanted to teach JHS. So I discussed with my coordinator, Sunday school coordinator, and said that I think I want to teach JHS because I feel that I will be needed more there. Then he said, oh, well, the way you are good with the children, I want you to stay with the children because the children, they need somebody who is really good with them. But I was able to convince him. Then he said, okay, then come to my class. He was handling the GHS at that time, Mr. Kofi Usum. Then he said, okay, now come and assist me in my class. So I was his assistant teacher. When I went to the class, then he said, bring the things you want to teach, let me see. So I typed and printed something like this, about 4 sheets of the topics that I wanted to teach the JHS people. When he saw it, he said, hey, there's a Bible school. So he just asked me to teach on this, friend or foe. So next week, teach on friend or foe. After I finished teaching the children, he said, take over the class. Me, I want to leave, so I'm handing the class over to you. I said, oh. He said, yes, I'm busy with preaching in university, secondary schools and all that, so you take the class. That was the last time I saw him in the class. He never came again. And I took the class. I was handling the class. When I got there, I was out to handle JHS 1, 2, and 3, combined 2 and 3 and all that, preparing their lessons, first term, second term, third term lessons, Form 1, Form 2, Form 3. So I'll prepare all their lessons. I have these lessons about getting to 400 pages of lesson notes I've prepared for JHS 1, JHS 2, JHS 3. Irene is laughing. So I prepared these notes and I will print them out and give it out to the students. Student copy, teacher's copy. So when I will go and I will teach them and all that. I was teaching them and teaching them. Then all of a sudden my heart changed again. I wanted to go and preach in senior high schools. But you see, I was still in the children's ministry at that time. I was not like, I had not left. And I was still in the young adults ministry too. It was when I got married in 2004 that I left the young adults ministry, handed over to somebody else. So then I went, I had a cousin who was the SU president of Kumaka. So I spoke to her. She invited me to come and preach in Kumaka. Then I went to Yasantua. I saw the chaplain. I was working at Apatrapa at that time. We were constructing the road there. So I went to Yasantua. I saw the chaplain. I said, I want to come and preach in your school. Then he asked me to bring a letter. I brought the letter. Then he said, oh, for this term, there's no space. I said, oh, don't worry. Anytime you have, just call me. When I left that evening, he called and he said, my speaker for next Sunday just called and said he can't come. And it was a Friday. So can you come? I said, oh, I'll come. He said, we start service at 6:55. I said, I'll be there. So I went there and I preached. I preached on the topic, how is your baby? That was the first topic I preached on. The headmistress was there, senior headmistress was there, everybody was there. And it was S47 girls' school. And I started by saying that teenage pregnancy is a very good thing. I'm coming to teach you how to be pregnant even as young people. And then the room was silent. That was my introduction, and I got their attention. And I used the story of Mary and told them how they can be pregnant with a vision and pregnant with dreams and purpose and all that. When I finished, the headmistress said that you should let me handle missions. They had a week-long program called Mission. He said, bring him for the mission. So that same year, I handled their mission program the whole week. And so I was just preaching. I went to Prempeh College. I went to S47. I went to Kumaka. I went to Westphalian. There's a school at Oyoko called Westphalian. I went there. But I still felt that I had to do more, preach more. So one day, I went to Trinity Bookshop. My friend, he sells books. When I got there, then I met one young man. Then he approached me and he greeted me. Then the man said, oh, Joe, this young man, he's also into youth ministry. Like he's preaching in secondary schools and all that. So I think the two of you can really. So I said, oh, how are you then? I asked him where he lived, not knowing he was living in the same area. So I said, I stood in my house. I said, come to my house. Let's talk. So he came and we talked. Then he said, oh, he had preached in 22 senior high schools. I said, wow, because I said, now, what I want to do is to preach in secondary school. He said, oh, Daddy, that's not a problem. I've preached in 22 schools already. I said, wow, then we can join hands, we can go. So we started moving, preaching in schools. At that time, we were using chaplaincy boards, but we were using AG. You know, they have chaplaincy board every term. They come out with schools that you preach on. But we were using AG because we didn't have any ministry. We were using AG's slots. It was an AG pastor who gave it to us. So anywhere there's AG program on the schools, then we go and preach. Then we started going to other schools to preach and all that. Sometimes he will go and get the programs, then I will minister. Then he will lead a prayer. That was the practice we were doing. And we preached in a number of schools. Then, that was in 2005. And in 2005, I think I skipped a certain part. In 2005, God started dealing with me in a certain way. It was a heart issue. Like April 2005 was when God cut my novel in ministry. Sort of, I had been preaching and teaching generally for 10 years. But then God took me through an encounter of a sort for 3 weeks where I would just go to the prayer closet. I would just be overwhelmed by His presence. I would just weep and weep and weep. That was when I was talking about these songs that I used to sing. I make you the center of it all. Jesus, you are the center of my life and all that. I'm stepping out of the comfort zone. Letting go of me, holding on to you. Freedom comes when we call you Lord. These are the songs that I was preaching. I was listening. Then there was one song. I'm giving you my heart, my life, and all that is within. I lay it all down for the sake of that's the signature theme for our videos. When you watch our videos, you will see that when it's coming to start, that song will be playing. I gave it to the cameraman that he should use that song as our signature tune. Because that was a song of revival, at that time. So that was April 2005. I was a changed person. And all these things, they were happening in the secret place. Nobody saw it. Nobody knew it. God was drawing me into intimacy. God was filling being with Himself. So when we started going to the schools to preach and all that, then I realized that to be able to effectively get the schools, then we must go with a ministry. Most of the things that I'm going to tell you, they will first look like accidents, but it was God's invisible hand. So I have a friend who worked with the chaplaincy board. In fact, he's still there, and we work together in the same students ministry. So I said, how can we register a ministry or a group with chaplaincy board so that you can give us more schools to preach? And he said, oh, just register, just give a name and then give your aims and objectives and then just bring it and I'll just put it on. So I told my colleague and I said, now let's register this ministry so that we can get more schools to preach. Then he said, okay. Then I said, the name that I've chosen for it is All for Christ Mission. Now, I didn't know that name was not given to me in a dream. I remember clearly, I came to my house and I was discussing with my mother and I said, I want to choose a name for an outreach ministry to schools. But it's like, I'm just debating. And I said, the name that I'm choosing is All for Christ. Then he said, oh, it's just like All Out for Christ. There was a ministry called All Out for Christ. They were at Mampong. And those days we used to go to camp meetings with them. All Out for Christ, Offspring, All Out for Christ, evangelistic ministry. So I said, I've chosen All for Christ. So I just gave the name to Reverend Vivi. I said, the name is All for Christ Mission. All for Christ Mission. The mission, I just added the mission. I didn't know why I didn't say ministry. I just said All for Christ Mission. So he put us on the program. And then we started going to the program, going to the schools to preach. Then we decided to organize a camp meeting for the students. Now, we had been preaching from 2005 September to 2006. So we decided to organize a camp meeting for students in 2006 December. So I asked him to go around and get a venue, organize a camp meeting, organize people, send letters to the places. He was more like running all the errands. I was just giving money. So he would go and see the headmaster, see who I do the arrangements and all that. Then he will come and take the money, then he will go. Then do all the organization. So we had the first camp meeting at Perpetual International School at South. It was South. South, yeah. South. This was the first poster. The first poster. Yeah. If you have not seen this poster before, that's the first All for Christ Mission camp meeting. See, All for Christ Mission, gathering of warriors, the work of the Holy Spirit, topics, the fruit of the Spirit, the gifts of the Spirit, building a relationship with God, working for God. These are the things that I was teaching in the schools, in the SUs. We'll go to SU to preach. I'll teach about fruit of the Spirit, gifts of the Spirit. I'll teach about how you can build a relationship with God, how you can work for God. These were my topics. So we organized this conference. That's 20th December to 23rd December 2006. Perpetual International School, near South Centresu, All for Christ Mission. And these were the speakers. If you see my picture, at that time I had this mustache. I didn't have this beard. You see, Brother Joe, President of Christ. Yes. And this was Pastor Justice, who was the Vice President, Gospel Commando. Yes. So it's written there, Gospel Commando. And these were other people who were ministering. I think that camp meeting, Pastor Andrew was there. He came from UAS. Was it UAS? Yes. Then there were other people too who were there. We were about 30 people, 30 or 20 something people. Okay. We were about 30. not even up to 30, and then we were just teaching them and all that. Then we ended the camp meeting. But, that was, so the All for Christ mission actually started in 2005, but it was more like just because we wanted to go to the schools to preach. That's why I chose that name so that we could go to the schools to preach. It wasn't a well-defined ministry or something, just for the purpose of being registered with chaplaincy board. So I had to design a letterhead. So I went to a place called Design Affairs. They were at Stadium. And I gave them the concept of the ministry at that time. I forgot to bring the letterhead, but later I'll show it to you. The first letterhead. The concept was Acts 2:17, and the concept was, I said, I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh and all that. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, young men shall see visions, old men shall dream dreams. And I said that 3/4 out of the 4 categories, they are younger generation. Therefore, God was going to pour at least 3/4 of his resources on the younger generation. So, Acts 2:17 here. Okay, so I gave them the concept. Then they designed a letterhead, blue and yellow in color. And the logo was that of a hand with a cross. And the hand had done this. And it was pouring something like rays of light on young people. They actually made a design as children. And I told them, no, it's not children, it's youth. But they had already done it. So, and they had printed our 500 letterheads. So we had to use it like that. So we use letterheads to send letters to schools. And then we'll go to the schools and preach. Actually, it was the justice will take the letters to the school because I was not going to get the programs. He was going to get the programs, and I will go with him and I will preach. Then he will lead the prayer. Then we'll go. So we went to a number of schools. But then the mandate actually for ministry came in 2006. You see, when I gave the name and all that, I didn't have any idea of ministry. I didn't have any idea to start any ministry or something. It was more like I had to, because if you don't have a name, you will not be given a chance on chaplaincy board. So in 2006, 13th December, I was praying in the morning. Then the word of God came to me. And I didn't bring the original book I wrote there. I think I've showed it to some people before. The book I wrote that mandate in 13th December 2006. The word came, said, I will put my mouth to your mouth, and I will breathe into you, and I will cause you to speak my words, and I will put a torch in your hand, and you will light the fire in the hearts of many young people and release them to the harvest. Like Samson caught 300 foxes, joined their tails together 2 by 2, and put a torch in between their tails and release them to the field of the Philistines, for the harvest is truly plenteous. That was the word that came. And the picture that God gave me was that of Samson catching 300 foxes and putting fire in between their tails and releasing them. Now, subsequently, God gave further instructions and further words, to make clear, to explain the mandate. Okay. So, 2006, I received that mandate. Then, 2007, January 25th, 27, I had a dream. And in this dream, I was about to preach to a small group of people. And I saw my father and my mother there, seated there. I saw CC members also seated there. Then, I was standing behind the lectern like this. My Bible was open to Matthew 6. I was about to preach. Then Benny came from this side. There was a door here. He came from this side. Then he came and stood in front of me. Then he asked the question, are you anointed? And I was just looking at him. And he laid hands on me like that. Then I fell down. When I fell down, I felt heat coming from my body. And I was speaking Chinese. Then Benny Hinn was telling the people, he said, this guy has been ministering faithfully for the past 7 years. Now is the time for his anointing. When I woke up, because all along, you see, one thing that I always used to think was that I'm not called. Even though I was doing ministry, I never thought that I was really called. Like I was called to ministry. I thought I just love to teach children and all that. So when I got up from the dream, some joy was in me. I said, wow, so I'm also anointed. God has anointed me. He has anointed me. Can you believe it? He has anointed me. I didn't tell anybody, but there was this joy bubbling in my spirit. And I knew Benny Hinn, but I had never listened to Benny Hinn. I didn't like his teaching. But at that time, I was a Miles Monroe student. And I liked Miles Monroe and those who taught, the teachers. I didn't like the miracle workers and all that. So it was Benny Hinn. Well, I remember after that, I went to the bookshop and I bought Benny Hinn's autobiography. He touched me. I bought it. Even I couldn't even read it. So God started giving me some impartation, one impartation after the other, from Benny Hinn to other people, many other people, the same 2007. Then I felt that I had been anointed in a certain way. After Benny Hinn's impartation, I realized one thing. I could just quote scriptures. I could just quote scriptures like that. I don't memorize scriptures. But it was as if scriptures had stuck in my mind. I could just quote scriptures like that. So we're still doing the work of the ministry. And then in 2008, my assistant, later he became the vice president of All for Christ. And he was like the first vice president of the ministry. Okay. And we were all living in the same area. So ministry was easier. Because he didn't have a car, so he would join my car and then we'll move. Then 2008, he moved to Abuakwa to live there. And so there was a distance, and there was a break in communication and all that. Now it got to a point, I realized that he was also doing ministry, also going, preaching at different places and all that. But just that there was no contact. He was not calling me, I was not calling him and all that. But the ministry had not been registered, it was still there, And he was also going in the name of All for Christ, using All for Christ, letterheads too, because he was still part of All for Christ and he was moving. So as he was moving, he came across some people that he also discovered and said that, oh, these people, they want to join us in the ministry. But at that time, I was moving with Pastor Andrew, because Pastor Andrew was living just close to my area. So anytime I'm going to preach, so at that time, I was the only one who was preaching for chaplaincy board programs. So Pastor Andrew will go with me, and then we'll go and preach. Anytime he will just come to my house, and then we'll go sit in the car, then we'll go to the place, and then we'll preach and all that. Then, in 2009, I decided that I wanted to focus on the ministry. And I wanted to tell him to separate and then do some other thing so that I can focus on the ministry and do the ministry. Because it's like, if you are my assistant and you are not, I don't hear from you, you don't report anything, you are just going about preaching and all that. I said, oh, I want him to go and do the ministry on his own. So I went and I got an office at Edum, All for Christ office. I paid it. And I said, I want to structure the ministry again. So the office will help me to do that. Then, but, that was in 2010. But in 2009, what happened was that 2009, somehow, the ministry was still there, but the ministry was virtually dead. Virtually dead, because, you see, I am the leader of the ministry. So in my heart, it was like everything was down, dead. To the extent that, because at that time, I was no longer in a young adults ministry. I was doing the children's ministry. I was just focusing on the children's ministry and all that. But okay, I've skipped 2008. 2008, I had a dream. In the dream, I had gone to a town. And when I got to the town, immediately, they decided to make me a Mrantiehini. Then the chief and elders called me and they said that their main concern is for me to build sheep pens for their sheep. Build pens for their sheep. So I even told my assistant that this year, 2008, I want to focus more on CCC because I had a dream and I was building sheep pens. I was asked to build sheep pens, so I believe that, and sheep pens has got to do with discipleship and raising people. And so I believe that God wants me to do a work in CCC. So I started preaching more in the new generation church, CCC, and other CCC, their camp meetings and retreats. They were inviting me. I was just spending more time there. But I was going for school outreaches here and there, little here and there. Then in 2010, I said, now I want to organize the ministry. You know what happened? I went to the gym and I was just working out. Then I had a call that hot water had poured, my daughter had poured water on herself accidentally, my second born. And it was like the thing was on the stove and she was learning how to walk and crawl. So she just held it and the whole thing came like that. But thank God it didn't touch her face. It just came from her thigh to this. And it was so serious. We spent 1 month at the hospital, at accident and emergency hospital, 1 month. Very serious. So I went to God because I was living by some principles, faith principles. So I went to God and I said, why did this thing happen? Then the Lord said that you are outside my perfect will. Because what I've called you to do, you have not done it. I said, what is outside of? Then God said that if I don't take up the mandate and I don't do it, I'm going to lose it. So I decided that I'm going to do it, but then I was still not going to call my assistant. I was going to let him go so that I can do it on my own. The Lord said that, call him. I had a dream. In the dream, I was trying to do something. Then he came. When he came and then he said, oh, Daddy, let me help. Then he brought something. Then we all did it. That week, I went for a program at CCC and Isuyanaba was preaching. He came outside. I was standing outside. Usually when we go for programs, because of the children's ministry, I will not go and sit inside. I will just come and stand outside, just listen to something small, then go back to the children's ministry. So as I came and stood outside, he stood just walked from the pulpit, came back to the outside and said, the Lord says, there's a young man. He said, tell this young man, join this chariot. He said, don't abandon him. Let him join your chariot. He didn't call me out, but he just came from the pulpit, came to my direction, and he was just saying it. He said, that says the Lord. There's a young man. He said, don't abandon him. Let him join your chariot. I said, is God trying to speak to me to go and call back my assistant? I don't want to work with him again. But so I realized that God wanted me to call him. So I went to him. When I went to him, I went to him. I didn't call him. I went to him. You see, God has ways of humbling you. I went to him and I said, look, I want to organize the ministry and rebrand it and register it. But I want to ask you, are you prepared to move with me or not? If you are prepared to move with me, then let's go. If not, then I'll move on. And I said, I've gotten an office at Edum and all that, and that's where we are going to do the ministry and all that. When I went there, then he said that even he, for the past some few months, he has been thinking, and God has been speaking to him. Sometimes when he goes to preach in schools, he feels like he's a stranger. It's like he has abandoned something. And he said that God was speaking to the two of us to come and do the work. So I asked him to come, And then when we were separated, in the course of the ministry, then he met some people, some of the pastors we have now. He met them when we were separated. Not separated as in just separated, but when there was a break in communication. So he met them. And some of them too I knew, like Pastor Song, for instance. I knew Pastor Song at that time when we were moving to schools together. That was when I saw Pastor Song. He was a student at Susek. Yeah, Susek. That was where I saw Pastor Song. I saw Pastor Casper too, at OT and all that. And I think we went to Ochapi school, but Ochapi was not there at that time. And we organized all the leaders, and then we prayed for them. Twasi. I don't know whether Reverend Dennis was. Are you Ochapi's mate? Yeah, so maybe he too was there. But then, so when he came, he had met some other people too. Then they all came together. Then said, okay, now I want us to do as we used to do, to go to the schools and preach. But this time, when I was coming, I had a different concept of the ministry. God had spoken to me about how the logo, the fire, and everything. This is a torch. At the same time, it's the youth symbol on fire. I gave the concept to a designer. I said, design it this way. So this one, I gave him the concept. He gave me about 3 logos, and I chose this one. He gave me one with these 3, and they had held their hands. I said, no, I just want this one. This is a youth symbol on fire. At the same time, it's a torch. When we say a torch, this is a torch. This is what I have here on my, this is what we have here. So then I said, now the name that I've chosen for the ministry, I've changed the name. It's no longer All for Christ Mission. Now it is All for Christ Youth Mission. All for Christ Youth Mission. To reflect the mandate God had given me in 2006. And also to reflect the fact that the central focus of the ministry was to the youth. So we came together. We started having camp meetings, and we had the first camp meeting after that in 2010 at Peter's Educational Center. I didn't bring that poster. I have that poster there. That was Youth Equipping Conference 2010. That one was All for Christ Mission. It was after that I changed the name to All for Christ Youth Mission. And then we registered it as All for Christ Youth Mission. Not All for Christ Mission. All for Christ Youth Mission. So that conference, 2010, I named the conference Youth Equipping Conference. You see, when we came back to the thing, I was so much in a hurry because I had gotten the concept, the blueprint, everything about the ministry. So I said, this camp meeting will be called Youth Equipping Conference. We decided to hold camp meetings every vacation. So Youth Equipping Conference, 2010, August, we had it. Then December 2010, I named that conference Torchbearers Conference. Torchbearers Conference. The Torchbearers Conference, the concept was to target all the leaders of the various denominations and the various groups on campuses and organize a conference for them. In 2009, I organized such a conference at KTI, with 2 other people, Pastor Godfrey and Pastor Sammy. I was moving with them at that time, So I was sending them, just as I was sending Pastor Justice to go and get programs, I was sending these ones too. So they were the ones who were waiting for the programs for me. And so we organized a conference at KTI, invited some of the leaders of the various schools, and they all came. It was recently that I watched the video and I saw that Pamela was in that conference. I didn't know her at that time, so, but recently I saw that she was in that conference, 2009. I think it was April. The very time that Istudanaba lost his daughters, I think that very day, April 9th, or Saturday, and we were having that conference at Kitia. So, because I heard the news at Kitia. So Todd Bearers Conference came to 2010, December. And that one, the concept was going back to our first love, intimacy, worship, and warfare. So the theme was touching heaven, changing earth. Worship, intimacy, and warfare. And at that time, I got one man of God, to come and take all the morning sessions. And he took us through worship. And there was power ministration and all that. That was when I heard this song, I will worship you. He used that song throughout the ministration. And it was powerful. Then in December 2010, I had a dream. In the dream, December 30th, 2010, I had a dream. In the dream, I met Ben-Hinn in blue-black suit. Then he said, name your next conference, Kingdom Power Conference. He said, why don't you name your next conference, Kingdom Power Conference? So I said, oh. So when I got up, I said, the name of our next conference is Kingdom Power Conference, to be held in April. So the April conference was called Kingdom Power Conference. The December conference was called Todd Bearers Conference. Then the August conference was called Youth Equipping Conference. I gave all the names. All the others, I didn't get them in dreams, Todd Bearers and Youth Equipping Conference, but Kingdom Power, I got it in a dream. And I named it Kingdom Power Conference. So we have been on the ministry and on the move from that time. So from 2010 to 2012, God started talking to me, showing me the real reason why he called me to start a ministry. You see, I said, when I got the name All for Christ, I had not received the mandate yet. I got the name in 2005. I got the mandate in 2006. So everything looked accidental. Usually I will take the step, then God will come and give the explanation. So 2012 was when God started dealing with me about redigging the walls of our fathers. And Lord started dealing with me about the fact that I've been called to redig some ancient mantles, ancient walls and all that. Yes. So, okay, you listen, so that I will not skip. So 2012, the Lord started dealing with me about redigging ancient wells and all that. Now, we had been ministering as a ministry, going to schools to preach, organizing camp meetings for people every vacation and all that, doing that more like a routine stuff, doing that. Then in 2012, the Lord began to deal with me about revival, unstopping ancient wells. When we started the camp meeting from 2010, all that the Lord led me to do was to do impartations. Most of my ministrations were impartations. And I didn't even understand what I was doing. I just did them because the Lord moved me to do that. So in 2012, that was what happened. Then in 2013, you see, from all this time, then we had the leadership. But the leadership was more of amorphous, it was shapeless. It was not well defined. You see, so there are many people who look like leaders of the ministry because they would just come around and they were leaders. But in 2013, something happened. That was also an epoch in the ministry. My assistant left. He left the ministry. he left. He resigned. Actually, he resigned. He said that he was going to do something else, and he resigned. So I also didn't. In fact, I asked him to stay. I asked him to stay, but I didn't want him to stay. Yes, because of what had happened previously, my mind was that if he wants to go, I'll let him go. But I convinced him for 1 hour to stay, but it was not from my heart. You understand? Yes. I said, oh, stay. I said, as you are going right now, you see, this thing that we have started, God has used us to build. See, now you are leaving. Why are you leaving? So who should come and inherit the toil that you have, the contribution that you have made? Who should come and inherit it? I was just saying all these things. I mean, can you imagine that these things will make somebody stay? And you know, before he left, he came to tell me a dream. He told me a dream that he had a dream, and I had called him to come and show him All for Christ, our meeting place. Then he said when he came, the whole place was bizarre. The floor had not been tiled. The building was in shambles. Then he said, no, I can't stay. Daddy, is this All for Christ meeting place? No, I'm going, I'm leaving. Then he said in the dream, I said, wait, don't go, wait. Just wait. And watch something. So he waited in the dream. All of a sudden, he saw that tiles were being laid. The walls were done. And the building became an ultra-modern building with air conditioning. But he didn't understand the dream. So when he told me that, I knew exactly what it meant. Yes. There are certain things I cannot even share. You know, so when he said he was going, I said, you remember the dream you told me? That he said, yes. I said, so do you understand the dream? Why are you going? He said, no, Daddy, I want to go. Please, just let me go. I want to go and do my ministry. I said, okay, then you can go. And then he left. So when he left, then, even though I made up my mind that I'm not going to let him come back, I intentionally didn't appoint anybody in his place for 1 full year. Never appointed anybody in his place 1 full year. So 1 full year, we were without a vice president. And I was working with the leaders. Pastor Song, Bishop, Pastor Dennis, and all the others, you know, I was just working with them. And the thing was that his exit created a lot of tension among the leadership. Because, you see, some of them, they came because through him, they came through him to the ministry. But it was like, when they came to the ministry too, they have come to embrace the vision of the ministry, and they have become convicted that this is where we must serve. And here's the case, the one who brought you says he's leaving, and you are saying, I won't leave. You see that it will create tension. So it created tension, and all that. In 2013, we could have meetings that we will start a meeting at 2 p.m. and close at 4 a.m. 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And then we close at 4 a.m. My car was still parked outside. I was still in my boots, working boots. The meeting started at 2 p.m. Then we were there just sorting things out, solving issues, dealing with issues and all that, building and fighting. Warriors and builders. That's why I say that God has brought us this far, you understand. Then, now everything, when the whole thing was going on, the Lord was telling me that the devil wanted to strike somebody. That's why he was doing that. So I told the leaders, I said that the devil wants to strike somebody. That's why he's doing that. And we should be careful of these contentions. In fact, in the dream, my father met me right here in the dream, right at the pavement there. And he held my ears. And he said, if you don't deal with this thing, this premature death is hanging on the leadership. Deal with it. So I told them that, look, all that is happening. Satan wants to strike somebody. So let's be united. And let's work together. And let's do that. At that time, Aristotle too was, he was with us. He was not a member of the ministry, but he came in 2012, August, to minister. And then he fell in love with the ministry. And we also kept inviting him. And he became literally a part of the ministry, Actually, before Aristotle came, Prophet Tender was still ministering as a prophet right from 2010. But what Aristotle came to do was to do impartation of the prophetic in the ministry, so that we'll have more prophets. When Aristotle came in 2012, December, he asked me to select 7 people so that you could lay hands on them. So I just randomly selected some people, and then he laid hands on them. And everything shows that Aristotle came to the ministry to leave some prophetic inheritance. That's why in 2014, when we were having the 21-day fasting, one of the topics I gave was that let's pray that the mantle of Aristotle will be released over the ministry. I gave that topic because I knew that was why he had come to the ministry. But unfortunately, Aristotle died. Just around the same time that I said Satan wanted to strike somebody, Aristotle died. Died through accident. And Aristotle was not, even though he was not part of the ministry, he was not part of the leadership, he was really a part of the ministry. At Abono 2013, he was there. He slept there, ministered powerfully and all that. But he died July 10th, 2013. Had terrible accident. Then he died with his assistant. The whole ministry was mourning because we had come to love Aristotle and his ministration. Such a brilliant young man, very sharp, prophetic, and also preaching. What attracted him to me was how he was able to handle the word and still operate the prophetic. But he died. When Aristotle died, in fact, it was after Aristotle's death that all of us came here to try and resolve differences. It was after that meeting that my vice president said, I've resigned, because that meeting was too hot. I was a mediator, I was the referee, and he was in the ring, and some of the leaders were also in the ring, and it was pa, 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 pa. So I was just trying to mediate, cool down tempers and all that. Say, stop. Listen to me. But after the meeting, he just said, Daddy, I'm leaving. I'm off. I'm leaving. You see, these things, only we who understand, we the leaders, we understand these things. You may not understand. So I just have to summarize it for you. So when he left, then we came together and then we were doing the work of each other. Then, so 2011, we went for association. 2012, we went for Bisiasi Crusade. 2013, we went for Ofasi Kokobin Crusade. But then, 2013, the crusade was in February. We didn't go for any crusade in August. We wanted to go, but I had a dream. In the dream, I was ministering. Then somebody came and said, I have not paid my electricity bill, so I should not minister, I should get down. I said, I use prepaid. He said, no, you have not paid. So I understood that it was domestic, internal issues I had to solve in the ministry. So I said, this year we are not going for missions. We have to solve all these issues before we attempt mission. Otherwise, we will go and come back with casualties. The devil will strike. So after resolving all these things, we got to 2014. And in 2014, March, I went for a program at City Church of God. Then the prophet called me and he said, there is a ministry that you have to fulfill. God says there's a particular thing you must do. I see a new robe has been put on you. a robe, like what they put on choir people, has been put on you. And I see a Bible in your hand, and I see God saying, preach my word, preach my word. See, they said there's a ministry that you must do, you have not done. He said, that's why your business is even affected. But God says he will make a way. Then he said, last year, something happened in your ministry. Because I've seen a young man taking his briefcase and living in anger. Then he said that, but God says, don't worry, I've put new shoes on your feet. Nobody can take away these shoes. And then he said some other more personal things. I went there with Jumiles. So after the ministration, I came home. When I came home, that evening I had a dream. No, not that evening. Some days after. I had a dream. In the dream, I had gone to Mount Hermon Senior High. And Mount Hermon was at Apatrapa area. It was a real school like Mount Hermon. That was the setting. So I had gone to Mount Hermon Senior High. And I had left my car at the place for 2 days in the dream. When I went, the car had deteriorated. And when I opened the door, it was, like it had rusted. Then I saw rats running, scurrying in the car like that. I saw cobwebs and all that. I said, just 2 days I left this car. Just 2 days. Then 2 policemen were sitting somewhere. They said, Master, where have you been? You are the one reason why we are here. We have been waiting for you. You have left the car here 2 years. You see what the car has done? This car must move. Then I woke up. That dream disturbed me. So, that Sunday, I had a program at Mount Hermon. I didn't go. And I went to Sawakesi with Pastor Song. Or did you go to Mount Hermon? Pastor Song said that he had a program at Sawakesi. I said, let's go to Sawakesi. I won't go to Mount Hermon because that dream I had, I didn't understand. Then later on, as I was waiting on the Lord said, let me interpret the dream for you. He said, 2 days is 2 years. For the past 2 years, you have missed, you are wondering, this missions thing, you have not been doing it as I want you to do it. They said the car is the next phase of the ministry. They said the 2 policemen are the 2 angels I have assigned. Then he mentioned their names, revelation and power. I've assigned for the ministry, especially for the missions. So I shared it with the leadership. I said, the Lord said that we should do this and that. And that was when I brought out the structure for the leadership. And the structure for leadership, I just got it, by inspiration. I just got it by inspiration. Because I just saw the human anatomy. And I said, the same way, that's the structure. So we have the head, the neck, we have the head, we have the neck, we have 2 points here and 2 arms. We have the heart, the stomach, and the legs. So the neck is the president. Then the head is the president. Then the neck is the senior vice president. Then the 2 arms are the 2 other vice presidents. So we have the president, then we have the senior vice president. We have the vice president administration, vice president missions. Then we had the heart, pastoral care director. Then these 2 hands, we had prayer and then worship. Then we have the legs, mission directors. The legs, these are the ones who will actually get to the field. Mission director, suburbs, mission director, vocational, mission director, SHS, mission director, JHS. We had all that. So I appointed Pastor Song not as the vice president, but as the senior vice president. After 1 year of not appointing anybody, after my assistant left, 1 year I didn't appoint anybody. So I appointed Pastor Song. I said, you are the senior vice president now. And I appointed Pastor Andrew as the vice president administration. And I appointed Bishop as the vice president missions. Then I appointed Reverend Dennis as the pastoral care director, and Pastor Collins as the prayer director, Pastor Joshua as the worship director, Joe Miles as the director of missions, suburbs. Then, so then that we have that, all that. Pastor Elijah later came in as a pastor in charge of the technical aspect and all that. Later, Prophet Jericho came in as director of arts, Then, who else? Prophet Tender also came in as in charge of vocational schools and technical schools, missions director. Pastor Tew was programs director. Later he became logistics, in charge of logistics. So that we had the structure of the ministry. Okay, then as time went on, other things started coming up. Other arms of the ministry started coming up. Some of them were initially programs, Guys and Gals. Guys and Gals was Guys and Gals was a program at first. Actually, it wasn't a program, it was a book, a series of books I wrote in 2009. And the book was talking about sexuality and all that. So I printed the first one, How Far Is Too Far. I printed Put Out the Holy Fire. I printed Just Wait, all in 2009 and 10. So later on, then I instituted Guys and Gals as a program in our camp meetings. So every camp meeting we'll break and we'll have the ladies at here, one side, the men at another place, and we'll be having Guys and Gals. I think we had the first Guys and Gals at Kwamo camp meeting. I think it was December 2010. That was when that was the first time we had it, So the Guys and Gals books, they are there. But later on, I raised it from just a program to a whole arm of the ministry. And that one too, the story is long. That one too has a different mandate and all that. Okay. Then, so now Guys and Gals is a whole arm of the ministry. Then we have Vision J127, the same thing. Also, the vision was imparted in 2001. 2001. I brought the book that I wrote, that thing in, the original book, last time I brought it. This time I didn't bring it. So, but now, that is also a whole arm on its own. And we have been moving forward. Then, we have 3G, we have Warriors and Builders, and we have, what else? Winners. Yes, WIN. WIN is Watchers Intercessory Network. WIN. And that is, I chose that name because I had a dream. And in the dream, we were having a program on FM, on radio. And there was a segment in the program called Ohaonese. And people were calling in from places, and they were receiving instant miracles and instant breakthroughs as we were praying for them on the radio. See, so I said that this is going to get there, and Pastor Collins is in charge of the Watchers, and Watchers is the what intercessory prayer arm of the ministry. Then the Glory Choir is also there as the worship arm of the ministry, together with Blessed Joshua too, as the worship director, the ministry of Christ and all that. So we have all these arms of the ministry now. Then, so this outreach, I called it This Same Jesus Healing Campaign. Even that one is also a whole story. How the mandate came and all that, Acts 10:38. Hebrews 13:8. These are the two scriptures the Lord gave me. And the Lord said, you have to go about. Go about. So my ministry actually is go about. Go about. How God anointed Jesus Christ of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit, who went about doing good and healing. That's my ministry. Go about. Go about. So I've been called to go about. Not stay at one place. Go about. So what I'm doing now is just temporary. I've not stepped into. I've stepped into the second phase of my ministry. But I'm going to step into the third phase. Then there will come a fourth phase. Then maybe I don't know. but I've gotten to the end of the second stage, and I'm about to enter the third stage of my ministry. God has been showing me all that over the years, all that. So we were there. Then, okay, let me talk about how TMI also came. TMI, is a church. And those of you who have, not those of you, but I think the pastors know that from 2010, I always said that I have not been led to start a church. Yes. In fact, my assistant told me, he said that, Daddy, if you start a church, I will do it with you. Why don't you start a church? I will do it with you. I will serve you. I will help you. I will do this. I said, it's not in me to start a church. It's not in me. I can't start it. It's not in me to start a church. But in 2003, one man that was more like a mentor to me, a professor, very spirit-filled, very spiritual person, a good friend of Bishop Oedipo. They are very close. Then he saw me as a youth president, and he sort of liked me because he was a man that was a patron. He really liked me. He always told me that, look, I've met many young people who are in ministry where you are different. Yeah, that's what he told me. So one day he said, I had a vision about you. You must lead many people. What are you doing now? I said, I'm in the children's ministry and I'm working with my father. I said, no. You must do something because I saw you were leading multitudes. He said, I didn't tell my wife, but later I told my wife. That was the man speaking, not me. The man said he didn't tell his wife, but later I told the wife. Then he said, have you seen Pastor Ransford? Have you seen Dr. Otabel? Have you seen Archbishop Duncan Williams? He said, a time will come, all of them will be no more. I see that God will raise you like one of them. Then he said, I was telling my wife, he was telling his wife, he said, I was telling my wife that if this young man starts something, I will give him all the support. So he advised me to start something like a church. He will give me all the support. If I need auditorium, if I need help, whatever instruments, he will just do it. But it was not in me to start a church. You see, my heart had not changed to start a church. So I just thanked him and I said, okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll do it. Thank you, sir. But I didn't do it. So anytime he meets me, he said, what are you doing? You're wasting time. You must lead many people. So when we started off for Christ, I didn't even have the boldness to go and tell him because he said church. And I wanted to invite him for Over Christ program to come and preach. But I had a dream. In the dream, I had invited him to come and preach. Then, when he came, instead of facing you, he had done this and preaching. So the Lord was telling me that he will not really be happy with what I'm doing. Because he said that I should start a church. He will support me. So I didn't tell him about the ministry till 2013 or so. That I went to him with some of my books and some of our CDs and all that. And he was so happy. He said, hey, it's not knowing, I've not been seeing you. I didn't know you were working, you were doing something. He was so excited. He detained me in his office at KU University for about 2 hours, talking about many things, advising me and stressing the fact that God says I should lead many people and all that. But I didn't have that thing to start a church, no. And I kept saying it, telling the pastor that, no, this is not a church. He said, we were not starting the church. It's not in me to start the church. Then, when I went to Israel, the second day of the tour, I just woke up at 2. I woke up, sat on my bed in the hotel, and God started speaking to me. He said, by the end of this year, there are some people who cannot fit into the traditional church system because you can't put new wine in an old wineskin. He said, I want you to preserve the wineskin for new wine to be put in it. The Lord reminded me of the dream I had where I was emranting him. I had never connected that dream to church. God reminded me of that dream where I was emranting him, where the elder said, our desire is for you to make sheep pens for the sheep. You know something? Raju, you remember the dream you told me about the sheep? And he didn't know, but he was just telling me the history of Christ. He said he had a dream, and I had a sheep, one sheep. He said that sheep, I love that sheep, and I sacrificed for that sheep. And I took the horn of that sheep, and I tied a torchlight to the horn. And he said, later on, other sheep also came. But this first sheep, he was fighting the other sheep. So I tried to separate them, and I tried to, if I'm wrong, you tell me. And I tried to give this sheep more attention so that he will not fight the other sheep. But it didn't work. And he kept on fighting the other sheep, fighting them. So later on, that sheep said, I'm going. Then he left. Then he said, I was running after the sheep. And I was just shouting and shouting, come back, come back, come back. They said the sheep was running down a hill, and he just went away. Then I came back, and I gathered the sheep that was left. And I started feeding them. He said, I fed them and fed them and fed them. Then they became many. Then I will build another sheep pen, and I'll feed them and feed them, and I built another sheep pen. When he said that, I said, you don't know. You have just told me the history of Christ. God has just shown you all the journey we've made as a ministry. And he didn't know any of these things. It was God. So he said that later on, the sheep became plenty. And I was just building pens. And that reminded me of the dream I had in 2008. Said, our main concern is for you to build sheep pens for our sheep. So when I came back from Israel, this dream was just recently, I think last year. Yeah. It wasn't before we started TMI. It was after TMI. When I came from Israel in 2015, I had it in my heart that we must start a church. But still, typical me, I always want to make sure that I do the right thing and not do things on my own. So I started praying into it. We had a deliverance session here. And after deliverance, I was sitting with Bishop and Joe Miles. And I told them that my heart is changing towards this thing, that we should have a ministry like a church. And they were also, giving their contributions and all that. Even Joe Miles told me that he had made up his mind that he was going to call people to come on here on Sunday so that they will come it by phone, come and teach them. So every Sunday he will call them, they will come, and I'll come and teach them. Because like they don't have any church to go, and it's like if they are not preaching, there's no church they are going. And he was saying that too, he wanted to organize something that I'll come and teach them. So I said, okay, then take your time. Then that evening, we stayed there till evening. Then in the evening I left. I got to Shell Filling Station to pick one or two things. Then I met Pastor Apostle Nyama. And Apostle Nyama said, Big Joe, there's something I wanted to tell you. It has come 4 times. But anytime I try to call you, it's like something crosses me, I don't tell you. He said, I think that it's time for you to start a church. He said, it's time for you to start a church. I said, wow. You know, I was just discussing with one of my pastors this morning that this is what God has asked me to do and all that. That was in 2015. After February, maybe March or April, I still did not start. I still said, let's pray. Let's pray into it. Then, my cousin, Bishop Divine from Shiloh, he called me on the phone. He said, Brakwesi, God showed me something about your ministry. I said, really? He said, yes. He said, God will ask you to start a main ministry. When he asks you, do it, because I see many big people coming out of that ministry. He said, I see politicians, I see professionals, I see rich people, great men coming out of that ministry. I said, really? He said, yes. So I was still praying. Then on June 18th, 2015, I went with Philip to Shiloh to preach. Shiloh United. I had a program there. I went with him to preach. Then my cousin called me again to the office. Then he said, Ra, I think now you are wasting too much time. Because I was doing 3 days fasting. And the whole fasting, everything, God showed me, it was you. It was you. I was coming to inaugurate the church that you have started. And I was coming with 3 other bishops. And I brought Mintah FM. And I brought them to come and see. And I came and I saw many people. Some of them were young people, but there were many professionals and all that. He said, Bra, it's time for you to start the church. Oh, church. And I said, okay, now I will start. So, well, I said I will start. Then he was telling me many things, many things about Richard Roberts anointing me on an exalted platform, very high platform. He was pouring oil and pouring oil and pouring oil, and many people were there. So, getting to the end of the year, then Prophet Tender also sent me a dream, where then he said he saw that I had opened a padlock, and he didn't understand the first vision. But a month later, he saw that I opened a padlock. Then I opened a second padlock. Then he saw many people. And he said they were not all for Christ people. It was a church. So the thing was building and building and building. Still, my heart was like, let's wait, because this thing, church thing, I'm not really into it. But then, gradually, when it got to December 2016, I felt that I could no longer contain the burden. You see, the speed with which I went to Asim to get a classroom, nobody will understand. I said, we must start the church January by hook or crook. Well, there's no money to go and hire a place to do the ministry, the church. So I had a dream. I was meeting in a classroom. It was a church. The classroom was at Amekum, not Asim. Then, as I was there, people were just coming, one after the other. I saw that the people kept coming. Then I went to look outside. I saw a long queue. Not knowing that they had queued and were coming one by one. Long queue. And Pastor Song was there. Somebody made a comment. Pastor Song said, that's what shows that this is from God. So after that dream, I said, I'm going to Amekum to get a classroom to start the church. So I went to Amekum. There was no classroom available. I pleaded with the madam. I said, okay, take us to the upper part. We want any. Then he said, there's one classroom. You can construct it and finish it and use it for yourself. I said, we don't have money to construct a classroom. So I went to Asim. When I went to Asim, I met the headmistress. Luckily, I met my agri teacher. I introduced myself to him. Then he took me to the headmistress. I said, we want a place for church. She said, oh, yeah, 20 cedis a month. 20 cedis a month. I paid for 12 months, 240 cedis. Then he said, buy a padlock. I bought a padlock. I said, we are starting the church 3rd January 2016. We are starting. So we started the church, started TMI, 3rd January 2016. At that time, I think when we got there, apart from we the pastors, I think we were about 20 or some. How many of you were there at that time? You went for the service? Yes. Yes. The very first 3rd of January, I preached on the big is in the little. So we had church. It was kind of some way, you know. People even told me that, and then that's what classroom will do. Classroom. Today we don't do church in classroom. You must get a hotel, get a hall. I said, I don't have money for hotel. I went to Silicon. They said they would charge 600 cedis a day. Yes, one day. I went to Makion, 500 cedis a day. And for Silicon, you don't have to use instrument because at that time we were in a crisis. Doing so. They said if you use generator, they will charge extra 100 cedis. That same place, Lighthouse came for that same place. They told me that Lighthouse has come, but they have not brought any money. So if like bring money and there, you can start it there. You see, Lighthouse is there. I went to a hotel at Odio. Is it what Leaf Hotel? He said we have our restaurant. You can use our restaurant on a Sunday, just a corner somewhere. Yeah, and they will take 400 cedis every Sunday. So I don't have that money for that. So I went to the classroom. Said, let's go to the classroom. And you see, the way when we started the classroom, you have anytime we go, they'll have to bring out all the chairs, the desk. And then after that, then they will bring our chairs. Then after the service, they will arrange the desk again. I remember Bishop, how Bishop suffered with the desk. I think one day somebody fell down under the weight of the chairs that he was carrying from the downstairs, just fell down like that. I've written all those things in my book of remembrance. Yeah, it's there. That's why I remember. So I saw. And the one thing is that, you see, the pastors were dedicated and willing to do it and make it work. So we'll go there Saturdays, we go on Saturdays to arrange the place. And those people who were also living here at the center, they were also committed to it. Pastor Elijah and Co will be carrying the machines, you put them in my car, then we will go, then Sunday after church, we'll carry the machines again, it will come, a whole lot of inconveniences. And then the school authorities too were always on us. Light bill, they will bring it. Then they'll be cheating us and all that. So that's how come we started TMI. Then when we started the church, it was like, now what is the name that we should give to the church? So we were just discussing. I brought one name. World Mission Center. At first I wrote one name. What name was that? I forgot it. Then I wrote another name. World Mission Center. I said this, World Mission Center. Sorry? What? WLC. And yet there. So, but later on, I was just there. I was just there. Then it just dropped into my heart. Torchbearers. So why is it that I didn't get the torchbearers all along? Because torchbearers is a common name in Love of Christ. Because one of our conferences is Torchbearers Conference. So then I got it. Then I went to the same guy who designed Love of Christ logo. I said, design another logo for Todd Bears. He gave me like 4 and I chose 1. I haven't even paid him. I've not paid him. And later he said he will not take anything. So I said, I want a hand with a torch going around the world. So you see, this is a hand with a torch. And this going around the world. So this one, there's no hand holding it. But this is the youth symbol. But now this one, someone is holding the torch, same torch, and then he's putting it around the world. And it's going around the world. That's how come we have this logo, Todd Bears. So this is the evolution of the ministry, right from the time of its inception to date. And where God is taking us, some of you know, some of you don't know. But all that God has been saying concerning the ministry, you see, we have been moving step by step, gradually, step by step, step by step, not looking to the right, not looking to the left, not following anybody, not minding anything, not copying. We have been moving according to God's revelation at our pace, not in a hurry, sort of, not ready to prove anything. We are just doing it poco a poco, gradually. As God leads, then we move. As the cloud of glory lifts, then we move. As it stands, then we stand. So, a time is coming when we are going to understand all this and the connection between all these things. That's where we are going to see the vision that God gave. We are going to see the manifestation. The manifestation. And I believe that now that we are all leaders, I believe that the vision is for all of us. The matter is unto you. The vision is for all of us. The vision is for all of us. This is the journey that we have made as a ministry. And now we have ministers. You see, at first we had special forces. Yes, some of you remember special forces. I was bringing the list, but I stopped. The list, the first list, especially for the first list, but I stopped. In 2013 at Abono, when I went to the camera, I told Pastor Song and Reverend Dennis that I wanted to select some people, recruit them, not knowing they were also discussing the same thing. That they think we should select some people that we can give them some training so that they can join us in the missions and all that, those who have completed SHS. And I came with some names. They also came with other names. That some of them, I didn't know their names. I just knew their faces. And then I only knew Joyce Chantra. I said, add her. You remember? Yes. I said, add her. And I said, add other people too. I mentioned some few names that I knew them. The others too, I didn't know them. I knew their faces. But surprisingly, when they brought the list and brought the people, all the people they brought also, they were people that I thought they should be part of it. We started special forces, special missions forces, special forces. And we were meeting here for special force retreat, praying, and partaking. And many things were happening, many things. And we're just doing special force and all that. Then later on, I think later on, special force metamorphosed into ministers. Yes, ministers. Now we have the structure. Now let me give you the structure, then I close. I want to give you the structure. The structure, the structure for the ministry, like TMI, and all that. It's like this. I'm starting from bottom to top. So it's a ladder. Okay. We have members, we have mentors, we have ministers, we have Bishop's Council. Bishop Council is more like leaders of Christ, ministers who are leaders also in schools. They are leaders of schools, leaders of Fire, like House of Fire, the cell groups. All these leaders are the leaders, the elders council. Bishop council is the elders council. We have 5 full office holders. We have the church council, general council, apostolic council. Yes, that's. But we have not yet implemented this structure. But it's something that's going to come, But it's like now we are moving gradually. Now we have mentors and ministers. Now we have elders, and then we have executives, or let's say pastors. So a time is going to come where we are going to be moving up, and then we'll have the apostolic council and all that. It's all going to be established, and there are criteria that you use to, move, and I've specified all here. Todd School of Ministry 2 is there. The vision is that a time will come, every leader, must have gone through level 100. There are 6 courses in level 100. You must have gone through all. What the ministry will be known for? Number 1, Bible literacy. It shall be a Bible training center with zero tolerance for ignorance and wrong teaching. Emphasis will be laid on building a strong word foundation. How many of you have the Logos and Rhema? Logos, no, I will build my church. I will build my church. Yeah, it's there. It's there. It's the last chapter. That Mintah retreat, I made copies of the manual for everybody. I'll build my church. And it's the last chapter. I didn't touch on it at that time, but it's the last chapter. Strong prayer foundation, fellowship and devotion, leadership, signs and wonders, missions, evangelism and revival, numerous branches, excellence in all spheres of life, wealth, influence, humanitarian activities, embracing the forgotten and forsaken, and all that. Then there are ministry departments like warriors and builders for young men, oasis, old age still in service for old men, wake, widows indeed group for widows who will join us. We're not going to have widows from the ministry, but maybe some widows will join us. And so we form widows indeed group, wake, people who are widows who are above 60, who the church will take care of them and all that. Then we have 3G, Watchers Intercession Network, Mission J127, local office, olive plants for children, tender plants, free youth, family life, glory choir, glory theater, house of fire, mentors, ministers. This Save Jesus Link campaign, local office, media, Christian resource department, that's a bookstop, media, correspondent, sound, technical, church protocol, Todd School of Ministry, local chapter, environment and sanitation. And we have Todd Ministry has a destiny to be a big church with global influence. It's a big tree with several branches. That's the destiny of the church. It's going to be a big church. When Prophet Hagin was telling me about the church, that it's funny, he said, Joe, at the end, I sorry. He said, the thing is a church. Joe, it's a church. I said, no, first of all, it's not a church. Even today, I tell me that what you said was not true because Hope of Christ is still there. Still, it's not a church. It's TMI, what is the church? So I said, so for what you said still is not true. I don't believe it. It's not a church. He said, Joe, a church. He said it twice. And you know something? The striking thing is the same position that we were, usually when I go to him at Buta, I park at this session. At first, I used to go to my Buta, then we pray. I park at this session. But on 2 occasions, I parked facing the Butanga garden.